Dodge this.
One world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of DTRH. It is May 19th, 2015. I want you to strap yourselves in tonight because this is going to be a very emotional broadcast. Just as emotional as my last broadcast I did on PTS, post-traumatic stress. As you know, I do not call it PTSD because post-traumatic stress is not a disorder. And it's how we speak. The words that we say, actually, they have meaning. They have an effect on everything around us. So it's important not to call post-traumatic stress a disorder because it's most certainly not. Anyway, I don't want to waste any time because I want to get into it with my guest tonight. And I want to take a few minutes to introduce you to him because this is the first time he's ever been on my broadcast. Many of you are listeners to Chris and Cherie's broadcast and some of the other broadcasts here on the network. So you're going to know my guest from being on Chris and Cherie's show plenty of times in the past. But I am honored to have him on tonight. He's a good friend of mine. And I'm, thank you to Chris and Cherie for introducing the two of us. Just amazing individual, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm just so glad to have him come on tonight. And he's going to share his own personal experiences with you all as well, and with me. And a lot of the stuff he's going to talk about, I already know, but still, he's sharing it with me just as much as he's sharing it with you. And he's been through some traumatic things in his life, and I think it's important for you to hear it, not just from me, but from somebody else who deals with the same stuff. And he knows how to heal people. He's a shaman, he's an author, a speaker, all-around great human being. I want to introduce my good friend, William White Crow. William, welcome to the broadcast, brother.
Oh, thank you, brother. It's good to be on. I mean, like we said, it's the first time, and yes, I have to agree with you. Thanks to Chris and Cherie for, putting us together, introducing us, because we do have a lot of similarities, even though, the events that took place in our lives were in two different time periods. Me being 61, and I was in Vietnam, and you're your age, and you were overseas in the wars that are happening now. So it's a pretty good mix. I think it's going to be a good show.
I agree, and you're a very insightful human being. We've had conversations about loss and stuff since I lost my wife, and you and I have had some pretty deep, eye-opening conversations just amongst the two of us, where like I helped you, you helped me, and I thought it would be beneficial for us to have some of these same conversations on air for the listeners, because that show, I sent you the show I did about PTS. You heard it. You yourself even said that it was a really powerful, beneficial show for people to hear. That's been one of the shows that I've received the most messages about that I've ever done. Ever.
No doubt.
So it's important that we cover this. So I'm going to give you the floor. I want you to take a few minutes. Introduce yourself to the audience a little bit. Tell them a little bit about yourself. Give them a little bit of background, whatever you want. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, just an awesome person. He's a vet.
It's a good gambit.
So go ahead.
It's a good gambit. I've been up and down. I'm just going to tell you, my wife and I were talking about this and everything, and she actually wanted me to write a book about my life history, and I kind of figured, well, I put enough of that on there on people's heads on radio shows and everything, but in reality, in the context of this show that we're doing, and what we've both been through, I started very young on an Indian reservation, and my mom, to have a boyfriend here and a boyfriend there. A lot of kids are going through this in society right now. And my dad and her didn't stay together, so I had a lot of stepfathers. Well, none of them turned out very good, because as a kid, you're looking for that one fatherly image, that you can follow, somebody that has honor and this stuff. And even as a kid, I was looking for that. And so marriage breakup, all this type of stuff. I know exactly, what people go through there. You're just, well, where am I going to go? Where do I fit? And as time goes on, you get better. You know how to handle it. So what I'm saying is that the experiences that you go through can make you stronger instead of digging a hole for you. The key here is finding your way back out. You can only go so far down. Then you got to climb back up. Then I went on in through, just regular teenage years of being a hellion at times and raising Cain on the Indian reservation. We moved there. And from there, I ran into some elders. Now, in between my raising Cain and listening to these elders, I started understanding a few things about life. And then while living on the res, I had a few friends die, alcohol, drugs, car accidents. So I started understanding this thing about death, and life wasn't that long. It was very short. So I started learning more and more about the depth of the individual, the soul of the individual, who we were. We only have so many heartbeats really in this world right now, in this life that we're living. And as time went on, then I got a chance to be with my real dad. And this is years later. I'm just giving you a quick synopsis here. And my dad was a gangster, pretty much. He was on the FBI's most wanted list, my real dad. The elders that took me in and helped me understand things and kind of set my head straight and why he did what he did compared to where my path was. And right up here in Shasta County, he was shot down at Lakehead up here at a little store called Jack's. So, he was a gangster. And so I lived a hard life there. And then after that, I said, man, this is insane. I got a chance to see him when I was 8 years old. 20 years later, I seen him again. So being without a father, without a role model, I understood I had to be strong myself. Then again, I went back with my mom, and then I turned around and ran away from there at about 9 years old. The next thing I knew, I was heading up to Santa Cruz County. I came back because I went too far. I ended up in Weed from San Diego, the area, the Indian reservations down there. And when I came back, my mom told me, you got to go. And she left me on the sidewalk in front of a bus station with $10, and the bus ticket to get to Santa Cruz was $12.50 during those times, so I didn't have it. But I was taught when the law came around, boogie, and I knew that I heard the guy at the bus depot turn around and said, call the police. I booked it. I hit the highway. And I hitchhiked to Santa Cruz, where I ran to my grandmother's, and she thought I was going to be just like my dad. So really never had a chance. And then I went back to the res off and on, and other Indian people, native peoples, I will say. And so I learned their way of life. So that's what I adopted for myself. And then I went to Vietnam, and I spent quite a bit of time there and working with operations and SOG and things of this nature, and got war firsthand. But all my life, I've lost things. So I had this, security need real bad, to make sure I was secure no matter what, and the people around me. And I still have that to a point today. All of us do. Any veteran does. It's just the way it works. And you understand what I'm saying, Popeye. But then, I came back from the war. I'd lost several good friends there in some hairball firefights. And, a firefight, I cannot even explain it to you unless you've been there. unless we can put you in the middle of your yard in a little hole or a bunker and just start shooting tracer rounds and explosions and everything all around you and do this for days. You know, when you come out of that situation, you're different. You're more aware, shall we say, you're hypervigilant on things. So as time went on, I, came back from Vietnam and everything and raised my family. And all of a sudden, I was getting angry and this and that. And I started going back to my native training and everything, which was working. And they tried to put me, as you and I, Popeye, talked about, medications, everything. None of them worked. None of them worked. I found out the only way to do it is to talk about it with people that's been there. Because it's a brotherhood, sisterhood, whatever you may be out there. Now, these people been where you are. There was no psychologist that had ever been in the situation knew what was going on that I had ever talked to. My philosophy is if you haven't been there, how do you know what's going on? But as time went on, I became a shaman, and I grew up learning how to be this. And I finally made it to the point where my life was dedicated to helping, healing, veterans, people, who had mental problems, which I found out in the long run and helped them understand they didn't have a mental problem. They just didn't understand the process, what they had to go through. And then, I started doing radio shows and everything, moved my family to Northern California, got out of the stress life of working, out there in the public, shall we say, to a point, going out and giving talks and all this stuff, and started going into the radio and aspect and kind of that's what I've been doing. Sweat lodges, Vision Quest, or radio shows to try to help people understand what's going on in the world around them and themselves. And out of this chaos, I was developed, and you too, Popeye, and all of you out there. We go to a point in our lives where we say, I give up, and we just kind of turn it over to whatever it is. You can call it God, you can call it Great Spirit, you can call it anything you want. And then you take charge and say, I don't like this anymore. Maybe I don't like myself. And you start following the path of spirit, like we call it spirit warrior, and then you find honor, you find people that believe like you do and everything. And even if they don't believe it, they understand honor and respect one another. And that a lot of these psychological disorders they said out there aren't disorders at all. They're just our ways of learning how to deal with stuff. It depends on what you went through. But, 61 years now, and I've watched the earth go from a really good situation to what it is today. And I watched society go from where a cop would help you on the corner to where they'll just beat you down or shoot you, things like that. Now, that's not going to happen with all cops, but look at what's happening out there today. So my path, to help people like you guys out there understand that, hey, we still do have hope. It depends on the direction that you want to turn around and put your mind into to change your paradigm. And I think that's about all I can say. I've been helping a lot of people for, 40, 50 years now. And when people wake up, life gets better.
Well said. When people wake up, life does get better. And you've suffered tragedies and losses in your own life, very much.
Oh, yeah, my son.
Yes, very much like I have. We got about 13 minutes before we go to break. Take as much time as you want and cover what you want. But just like I did, like you heard the show that I did about PTS, and you heard what I went through. So,
best show I ever heard.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, especially coming from you. Take as much time as you want and share what you went through with your son as much as you're willing to share. You know what I mean? I don't want to trigger anything, but
what we talk. I thought about this even when a lot of triggers went off when we even talked about doing this show. I think they do with all of us. Anybody that's been through things, you can deal with it. As time goes on, it gets easier for you to deal with. But the losses and things you go through, as you know, are always there. I've had several. My dad, my mom and stuff. But the one that really, really hit me was my son, 19 months old. We lived on a ranch and everything, and I came home one day and everything, and doing what I do, being a shaman, I feel things. And I came home one day, and my wife was busy, and the kids were, doing things and everything, and I just got this feeling of dread. I guess that's what it is. And I stood up from the table because I think I was eating lunch, pretty sure, and I was eating something. And I turned around and just stood up. It was like my chest was just, I can't explain it, just tingling, and And I turned around and said, "Where's Zach?" And that was our youngest son, 19 months old. And he was pretty mobile. And this is why I always say, parents, we were diligent. We always have been. And we're super diligent, even with our kids now and grandkids. But sometimes they can slip away from you. You have to be very, very cautious, especially around water. And that's what happened with my son. It was a drowning accident. And I got up from the table, and everybody was looking. And he even slipped away from the other kids, just fast, And I ran outside, and we were irrigating our fields at the time. We were at a ranch, a 70-acre ranch that we were had rented, and we were running and everything. I was running cattle and things like that, and harvesting, more farming and ranching and cattling. And I like to work, being outside with Mother Nature. And then, I got that feeling, and I like I said, it was dread and fear and everything all rolled up in a ball, and I can't even explain it the way I need to. And I ran outside and everything, and I looked at a gentleman, and he was a Hispanic. I said, "Mi mijo," and he pointed down the aqueduct thing, leading into the fields. And I jumped in my car. I jumped in the water first and started searching, and I'm just going in my head, my God, this can't be happening. And so I turned around and jumped in my car and started heading down the back of the barn. We got these roads in between, dirt roads in between fields, and that's when I came upon him. And I jumped out of the car. I hit the brakes and slid the car. And unfortunately, of course, I panicked, which I shouldn't have. I know this after Vietnam. Anyway, I hit the brakes on the car, and I'm going down the road, and it ended up in the other field a little bit, about 4 foot off. And I'm going, oh, my God, now I'm stuck. But even as I was thinking of that, I was opening the door and heading to the ditch, jumped in and grabbing my son. Well, as I picked him up, I knew in my head, oh, my, this might be the last time. I get a chance to say anything. And I ran a quarter mile back to the ranch, with where my wife and kids were. And, my wife was there because my other two kids were on a road trip with the grandparents. And I just want to stop right there for a second. I had a premonition something was going to happen because I got in an argument with my wife's parents and everything. They wanted to take them on this trip to the United States. Good experience, which was true. But I had a funny feeling if I left any of my kids, they were separated before the youngest one was 5, I was going to lose one. And that's exactly what happened, here. So pay attention to your premonitions. I just have to say that right now. But anyway, I ran back. As I'm running back to the house, I'm giving CPR at the same time as running. And next thing I know, I looked up, and I'm in the jungle again. And I'm in a flat San Joaquin Valley area. There's no trees. There's no big bushes. There's nothing. And it was like, oh, no, not now. I knew it was happening. And everything stayed that way until I rounded the barn and got my son to the hood of my truck, where I tried to give CPR until my wife called the ambulance, because she had no idea where I'd taken off at that time. And I just knew to follow the water, after the guy, the gentleman that was working at the ranch, pointed a direction. And then he came up about 5 minutes. I've been doing about 10 minutes, I guess, CPR, and doing everything I could. And, the big thing here is when you're in combat, you go out there and you save your bros. You know what I mean? You do what you can. You're a brotherhood. And if you're women out there, of course, you're going to have a sisterhood, but you're still part of the brotherhood. But we didn't have women in combat at that time where I was specifically. And, this Mexican gentleman came in, and I turned into an animal. I didn't want him touching me, getting near my son, anything. I was back in combat in my head, which is a very dangerous place to be. But anyway, I couldn't bring him back. But I tried in the ambulance, and everybody got there, and they did the work, and, what they could do. And time slowed down, man. Once the ambulance got there and the sheriff got there and other people took over, giving the CPR, it was like time just stopped. It did.
I know the feeling. I know it all.
I'm okay here.
It's all right, brother.
I'm okay.
Listen, you take your...
And so I'm looking at them, seeing them doing the thing, and I'm just sitting and going, come on, guys, do better than me, you know. But since then, it's that thing, you know, you were always able to save everybody else, but you can't save your own, you know. So that terrible feeling just rips through you, you know, during this time. But time slowed down. It was just like it didn't exist anymore. It was the wind could blow through you. It blew right through me, like I wasn't even there. And so we got an ambulance, and they put me in the squad car, put my wife, of course, in front, and me in the back behind the cage. And man, it just seemed like we were doing 10 miles an hour, you know, down these back country. We weren't, you know, but it felt like that to me. And I'm pounding on the cage, telling this cop, "Let's go," you know, and I'm pissed beyond reality. And at the same time as, oh my God, you know, the fear and the dread of losing your 19-month-old son in your arms, you know. And we got to the hospital and everything, and they had to keep my wife and I out of there and everything. But, you know, I got a lock of his hair and stuff like that. We keep that. But, you know, there isn't a day, you know, people have to understand out there, when you get a loss like that, your world's turned totally upside down. Reality is not reality anymore. And it isn't for you from that day on, because you know from that point on that it doesn't matter who it is. You only have so many heartbeats. Got to use them right. Okay.
It changes your perspective. It most certainly does.
It does. It does, but it teaches you. You know, and that's where we're going here. You know, it teaches you something. Number one, you know, children are fast. You know, we were always, there was a lot of us, all of us watching our children as time went on, but they could slip right out from you. And man, it's just an accident. It happens. And you feel dread for your life and you blame yourself and everything. But you know what? Accidents do happen. And the longer you know, unless you are the cause of that child's death, you know, you have to understand right off the top that, accidents do happen, and you have to accept that within yourself, because it'll destroy you if you don't. I do good, you know, and I knew I was going to have a hard time doing the show to a point when I had to tell this story. But, you know, that even preempted Vietnam and the combat and days of combat and getting shot, getting your buddies killed, blowing all over you, all this type of, that was just so, you know, the other ones are your bros and they're like your family and everything. But when you can't save your own child, it's my God. So I went into every type of education of psychology you possibly could, and graduated highest honors, you know, and psychology, the whole 9 yards, you know, to figure myself what was making me tick, because anger started kicking in then. Because I just didn't want to understand it. Even though I had a shamanic background, that human side of me came out. And it was very angry. I mean, very angry. A friend of mine gave me a motorcycle, 1100 Yamaha XF Super, bored out to 13. And I went out and just started out running cops. And my wife, you know, one day I come home, there's 6 highway patrols sitting at the end of my driveway. Did I care? No. I turned around and made them chase me down the highway, do some more, and I came in the back way to my house. And with the helmet, they knew the bike, it was mine, but they couldn't prove it was me. So, you know, I was thinking all this crazy stuff back then. And for a few years, you know, I went pretty crazy. Violence was the name of the game. I grew up in violence, you know. But then after that, other people started needing help. And I started going, wait a minute. I can help these people.
You acting out, you know, I want to point out that you acting out, you did the same thing I did. And you made mention of this to me when you heard the part about me walking down and chasing the drug dealers down the street with the baseball bat. It was like a way of working out frustration and guilt. At that time, it was survivor's guilt from surviving, from 9/11 and then, you know, getting out of the military. And I dealt with that same guilt when Mercedes died, because I felt the same thing you did, and I still do. I deal with this and wrestle with this every day. That of all the people that I've saved as a firefighter over the course of time, people I've pulled out of car wrecks just driving down the road, which has happened plenty of times, the one person that I could not save was my wife, and she died in my hands. And I still to this day have a problem reconciling that fact. it's very hard to. I'm my own worst enemy sometimes because it's almost like, and I try to forgive myself for it, but there's part of me that won't forgive myself for it because I failed. And as many people will tell you, oh, it's not your fault, whatever, you will always feel that it is your fault. So I completely understand that guilt that you feel that you could not evolve, like, because you were highly trained like I am, like the two of us understand each other very well. And like, you could save your friend, you could stop your friend from bleeding. I've saved people with gushing head wounds from bleeding to death at car accident scenes, and yet I couldn't save my wife from something as simple as an asthma attack because her throat had closed up so tight. So,
yep,
it slips away so fast, and it like you feel helpless and powerless in those seconds where they feel like hours, and it's just dragging on. And you don't know what to do, and then you're watching the paramedics work on the person you love. I know exactly how you feel, and it affects you so deeply and so profoundly that it literally knocks you off your foundation.
Totally.
The only thing that kept me from doing retarded, stupid things, like my old behavior of chasing drug dealers with baseball bats, was that Marseille wouldn't have wanted me to do that. She helped me get past that. But I ended up losing my temper anyway. That's how I broke my left hand. A lot of people don't know. That's how I ended up breaking my left hand. I busted it because I lost my temper right before I went to Amsterdam with her ashes. And I ended up breaking it. I'll get more into that on the other side because the break is sneaking up. Ladies and gentlemen, do not go anywhere. More about PTS, being spiritual warriors, and surviving loss with my good friend William White Crow. Stay tuned. We are back. And I want to get back into it where I was when we went to the break. So I was talking about what had happened with my left hand and how I broke my left hand. So not many people even know I broke my left hand. But I wanted to get into this because William brought this up about being angry. And when I was younger, I did the whole chasing of the drug dealers thing. But this time when I started to get angry again because of what I had been through the first time and where I had come from, and not wanting to let Marseille down because she had helped me get through all that stuff. And she would have been disappointed, and it would have been for nothing. All that she sacrificed to help me would have been for nothing, and that would have made me angry that if I had made that in vain. So I had to be the one to make the choice, but it was because I had this already different perspective shift because I was healing from what I was already dealing with, the post-traumatic stress that I was already dealing with. So after she died and I went through all this, I had maintained everything really well, and it was the night before Thanksgiving, and I was traveling on Thanksgiving Day over to Amsterdam to take some of her ashes where I took them. And my skylight in my garage, I just bought a house like a month and a half before with her too. And the skylight in my garage started to leak. We had this like nasty winter storm that hit the East Coast. And we got rain down here in Florida. Long story short, it was leaking. And it was the straw that broke the camel's back. Because now I had to call a roofer and get that fixed before I could go to the airport. And I was leaving for the airport in like 10 hours. So, yeah, now I had to do all this in 10 hours. Plus I'm dealing with the death of my wife and all the trauma that was involved in that, and then handling all the paperwork and everything else. And I snapped. And I wanted to break something. And my poor father, witnessed this. And I said to him, I want to break something. I want to snap something. And I didn't want to break anything in the house because I didn't want to break something that was hers, and then I would really regret and then be angry at myself. Because, see, that was me trying to control myself. But even in the anger, even those of us that come off as cool, calm, and collected when we talk about this stuff have bad days. And this was one of my bad days, a very bad day. So long story short, I didn't want to break anything, and I didn't want to punch a hole in the wall. And I have this older, it's about 25 years old, this solid oak cabinet. I have two of them. They're the end pieces of this old oak entertainment center that my mother had. And they are packed. The one was packed with DVDs and everything else. So it's literally, there's no flexion. in the sides. Besides everything being packed in there, it's got shelves. So it's very braced up very well. I didn't think about that part. I thought about it just being able to withstand a couple punches from me and I would be fine. And I started boxing it. My dad taught me how to box when I was a little kid. I know how to throw some pretty nasty combos. And I grabbed it with my right hand. I grabbed the top of after a couple hits, back and forth. I grabbed it with my right hand and I drew back. See, I'm ambidextrous. I can hit with both hands. And I drew back and I started punching this like it was someone's face as hard as I could. And I just kept hitting. And each time I drilled it with my fist, I let more and more anger out. I could feel it surging down my arm and out of my fist. People that have done this know what I'm talking about when they've lost it. And the final time I drew back, and I gave it everything I had. I was trying to put my fist through the damn cabinet. I was just so angry. I had no other way of expressing how pissed off and upset I was. And I hit the cabinet, and I felt my hand break. And I got madder because I just broke my damn hand and knew that now, if I went and got it fixed like I needed to, I was going to miss my flight, and I was going to make myself late. So, as a way of dealing with it, I said to myself, well, this is, and maybe you can say I'm right or wrong, but I took personal responsibility and I decided to continue with my trip anyway. And when I came back 2 weeks later, I got my hand fixed. I traveled around for a little over a week and a half in Amsterdam, spreading her ashes out all over the place and carrying my luggage with a broken left hand, a severely broken left hand, to the point where they needed to operate to reset it and put pins in it to hold it in place. And I had the pins in for 7 weeks. Okay. I was so pissed off that I did that to my hand. I was more mad that I broke my hand and lost my temper because I had thought that I had gotten past that. And I realized that it was okay that I made the mistake. It was one of those things where you learn that you have to give yourself a break for the transgressions you make when you're angry or when you're going through this stuff. And I realized it was actually a good lesson for me to learn because now I still feel it whenever, my hand hurts whenever it's going to rain now. It's really bad. And, I can use my hand again, but the point is I learned from it. And I allowed that mistake that I made to be, like Kennedy said, an error only becomes a mistake when you refuse to correct it. So I'm using it to correct myself. And I still, to this day, I use it. I'm not perfect. When I come up here and I tell you people that I've had bad experiences or I've lost my temper in the past, look, I'm just like you. We're all equal. I'm no better than you. The whole point of me and William talking about this is to not preach to you. I want you to understand that you're not alone and that I go through, a lot of people look up to William. They look up to me, oh, you guys are, I don't know how you do what you do. Well, we're human just like you. And if I can share my experiences and he can share his and help you guys understand that we're all on the same page, maybe you can take something from this and learn from it. And one of the things I learned, William, was not to let that anger consume you. And a lot of that anger came from me feeling guilty. And I had to learn to let myself, off the hook for a lot of things. Like I said in that one show, the show I did on PTS, you got to let yourself off the hook for a lot of your mistakes. And you hit that right on the head. And don't you think that's one of the biggest steps?
Oh, yeah. You have to let yourself go. You understand that, a lot of things you just can't control. I've said that on many, many shows, there's a lot of things you can control around your life, but there's some things you just can't. And you have to accept the way things are. I look at it this way, though, and this helped me get through it, too. And if any of you went through this, you might understand that certain spirits aren't meant to be here for the long haul. They're meant to come here, help us in our lives, and then go back home. They're not going to have to stay here and go through a lot of the craziness in life because they're special spirits. And, one thing my son taught me, and, after he was gone even, was, you only have so many heartbeats. You have to have patience. You got to tell those that you love. And you have to go out and give it your all every day, no matter what it is. Try to be as happy as you can. You're going to have ups and downs. But, regular everyday ups and downs, that's small stuff. That's really small stuff. When you understand that you're not the problem, then you can start rebuilding yourself. And it takes a lot of time for some people to do that. You know, a lot of people just, they hold that blame in. They can't see any way out of it and everything. That's because nobody's ever gave them the perspective on how to get out of it, because that depression can take you deep, and it can hang on to you like an octopus with, 50 tentacles instead of 8, and you can't see your way out. But, over a period of time, you sit by a river, and this is what does it for a lot of people. They'll sit by a river and they start talking to themselves. And this is a key, self-talk. It was for me. Okay, this happened, but these people need your help. And you have people around you that love you, brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, spouses, grandparents, whoever depends on you, needs you to understand that they need your help too. And that's a healing process. I found that the more people I helped, once all this craziness happened and everything, because I went through this with my wife's father, which was a fantastic man. I looked at him more as a father than my own father. Okay. And a couple other people that, Packy, the one that lived here I was telling you about, we even moved him in with us because he had no family. And he was just getting to the point where he couldn't do what he needed to do. But all of a sudden you see hope, for yourself and those other. You found something to channel that energy into. You find out by letting go, understanding that you weren't the one that caused it. It was an accident. And maybe it was something you didn't do, or you get that funny feeling. If any of you got this, you got that funny feeling to tell somebody don't go as they're walking out the door, and you find out 2 hours later they were killed in a car wreck. Well, a lot of people hold that in. I should have did this. I should. No, maybe that's just the way it was supposed to be. And that's hard for people to accept and understand. But I found out that as you do, Popeye, and Chris does on shows, and all of us out there that are serious about this, you become a spiritual warrior. And that's where it starts. You've lived your life. You went through the hard knocks of life. You've turned around and had traumatic experiences of war, of maybe it's rape in women's cases, or abuse with elderly or children. The gambit, go for it. Whatever it is out there, this PTS, this post-traumatic stress, is how your body and your mind just relaxes. It's not a disorder. It's what you've went through and how you are reacting to it. But once you understand your keys that click you off, whether it be an irate driver, or a person just going too slow in front of you, and you're getting rage, or something like this, or somebody looking at you a certain way. I remember right after my son, we lost him, my wife was in the truck and we're going downtown. These lowriders right in front of me. They just cut us off and gave us this look. Well, I jumped out of the truck and was ripping them out of their car, and it happens like that fast. But over time, I understood my trigger, so I wouldn't let that happen anymore. And come on, don't let him get you. You understand you got things to do. That's more negative. That's not what they would want me to do. My son will want me to do. Strive forward, move forward, never take a step back. Every once in a while you might fall back a little bit, but you got to pick yourself up and still move forward by understanding that these things happen in life. And the best thing that you can do is gain strength and understand that what has happened to you is making you stronger. If it hasn't killed you, it has to make you stronger. And a spirit warrior understands this, a spiritual warrior. And they take all these things that just happened to them in their life, and they look and they said, I've made it through this. And I can help other people understand this, so we can help create more spirit warriors as we go along. And it's a deep thing inside you. You can see darkness in people. All of a sudden, life changes. You're instantaneously able to tell who's a good person and a bad person. I can. And I hope everybody else, I know Popeye could probably sense something the second before it happens, days maybe before it happens. It just depends on the individual. But your sense of awareness and being, because you've been through all this turmoil and everything, increases your awareness of everything around you. And that's a good thing.
And you hit the nail on the head with the whole, it's not a disorder. That's why I don't call it PTSD. I call it PTS. Post-traumatic stress is your body's natural reaction to something completely traumatic and unnatural to you and your brain in your experience. Whether it's war, rape, a car accident, someone you love dying tragically. Okay, I mean, look at William and look at myself. Look at the two of our situations. Very, very, very traumatic way that things went down, and that in and of itself is a traumatic event. A woman being sexually assaulted, a man being sexually assaulted, traumatic event. I mean, you could have PTS just from going through basic training, technically. I mean, we've all been through basic. Basic's pretty, it's pretty mental. They break you down and build you back up. So, I mean, that could be traumatic to somebody. Anything can be traumatic. It's not really, I had a conversation on the way out on the beginning of my road trip. The first place I went was Texas to give away my friend Melissa Melton. Melissa Dykes now, because she married another good friend of mine, Aaron Dykes. And on the way to their wedding, I stopped at a Cracker Barrel. I was out in Alabama. And it was probably like 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. And I was sitting, I was trying to read, and the waitress came over to take my order. And when I looked up, and you know what I mean when I say this, when you see somebody, if you've been through trauma like me or William has, you can see the trauma in someone else's eyes if they've been through it. You just, like, there's this, you can see it in someone's eyes. Someone that's been through loss or a traumatic event can see it in someone else's eyes, because we have a look that only the other people that have experienced that would understand that look. Somebody that hasn't experienced a traumatic event yet, or something to that level, they might not pick up on it. Whereas if you've, like, if I never met William before and him and I were in a room or whatnot, we were walking past each other and there was 50 people in the room. If I looked at him and he looked at me and we caught a glimpse of each other and we stared each other in the eyes for a second, we'd be able to tell that the other one had been through something. Okay, you just know. Yeah. It's a look that you can see. And I saw that in her eyes. And she came over to me, and I don't even remember how exactly I got the conversation started onto it, but somehow I managed to get the conversation onto, what was bothering her. It only took me like 30 seconds. I don't even remember how the hell I did it. But yeah, we were talking, and she had said to me, I was in a car accident, and, ever since the car accident, I don't like to drive. And I said to her, so do you have flashbacks? And she said, yeah, when I get in the car. And then as soon as I asked her that question, it was like she understood that I kind of understood what she was going through. And we had like a 5-minute long conversation where she actually even admitted to me that she couldn't believe that she was opening up and telling me all of this. She had just met me like 2 minutes before, and I'm nobody but a customer. So I explained to her what I went through with Merce. And because of that experience, and because I was able to relate to her having gone through a traumatic experience in her own right, she sat and she listened to me, and she said to me, I never thought of it that way. I didn't think that you could have post-traumatic stress from being in a car accident. I thought you could only get that from, like, being in the war. And I explained to her, no, sexual assault, anything traumatic, car accident, someone dying, anything like that. And afterwards, she was so touched by the whole, she was bawling her eyes out for like 5 minutes, which then led to me crying my eyes out. And we're standing there at the table crying, talking to each other. People in Cracker Barrel are looking at me like, why is this guy making the waitress cry? And we sat there, and afterwards, she went and she got my food and stuff, and she took my order. But it was just very, very powerful. In fact, it was so powerful that I could not stop crying while I ate my breakfast. And I wasn't like sobbing, like tear, like I was perfectly, I could be talking to you like I am now, but I just had tears rolling out of my eyes because it was so emotionally powerful that I had connected with her, and that I know I genuinely helped her just by letting her talk, and her finding someone else that understood her and had been through something that could relate to her. And it was amazing to see the look in her eyes when she, like, it was like you could see the light bulb go bing. So that's one of the reasons I do these shows. You know what I mean? Is to show people that, look, it's okay. It's natural. It's normal what you're going through. And you talking about it, and unfortunately the flashbacks and stuff like that are part of your brain's healing process. So that's right. Don't be afraid of it. Don't run from it. Don't be angry at it. Understand it, and then try to work through it. And hopefully your loved ones, if you can sit and talk to them you can try to relate this stuff to them. And if not, tell them to listen to this radio broadcast with me and William. Tell them to listen to the other one I did on PTS. Tell them to listen to the future shows I do on PTS. Because that's why I do them. I want the world, I'm trying to help the universe understand itself better. Okay? That's my main goal. I want mankind to understand itself better. So that this stuff it'll be easier for people to survive from traumatic experiences. And not just veterans, everyone that goes through a traumatic event. Okay? That's my goal. It's kind of lofty, but it's my goal.
I think that's something you have to understand that, that and help people understand they're going through the same thing that you have went through. It gives everybody hope.
Well, see, that's why I do this stuff. Like the show I did on PTS, the first one, it's one of the most emailed shows, message shows, anything, comments on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, email messages. One of the most emailed, whatever the most communicated shows that one of the show I've been communicated with the most about. I'll put it that way. Okay, it's got to be hands down, easily probably the number one I've gotten the most emails about ever out of all the shows I've done. I've done over 600 broadcasts, and out of all of those, that one show, because it resonates with people, because everybody has experiences in their life that
That's right.
at one point or another will traumatize them. So you're going to go through this. Understanding how to deal with it and learn from it and know what it is the key. It's a process. This is all a process, ladies and gentlemen. Wouldn't you say, William, that this is a process of healing?
Totally, 100%, 1,000%. It's a process. The first thing that's going to happen is dread, and my life is falling apart, or excuse me. That we miss the physical aspect of it. We'll talk about losing an individual, whether it be your wife, a son, a mother, father. The first thing you're going to miss is that physicalness there, and maybe because you didn't do something, you're going to feel the guilt. But maybe I should have did this, or should have maybe put it on a shelf. Maybe it don't work in the real world. When it comes to this type of stuff, it is a solid process of grieving. But what really comes out of this grieving process is a better human being, a better understanding of who we are ourselves and those people around us and who they are. And I look at it as a raising of consciousness, because you don't look at things the way you used to. You've evolved to a higher point of understanding. And I know I've talked about the spirit warrior, and that's what we advertise the show as too. We talk about that, but that's what makes a true spirit warrior. They'll be there for you through the thick and the thin. They'll understand the process with you and let you go through that process at your own pace. The only thing that we do is try to give you some guiding light, a little path to follow down and some good advice, but we have to listen to you when we're helping. And we adapt to what your needs are. I've done what you were talking about, Popeye, in the restaurant with that girl. And I've been driving home and you're thinking of things, and all of a sudden the tears start coming. You're not crying, I bet you are, And I've helped a lot of people that are on the street that didn't have anything, and gave them, enough money to get a motel or two with their kids and everything. And then you wonder, I hope they're doing okay. But you did all you can do. In some cases, you have to understand that. But the process of grieving and getting better, all of us have to go through it, and we can all come out on top of that by understanding that these people or these bad situations, these rapes, these happen, that you can get better from them. Being bullied, being abused in any way and everything, we can grow stronger by actually living through these experiences and understand that one or two things. I'm not going to let that happen to me again. Or if this happens to me again, I'm going to know how to deal with it in a better and a more positive way. But definitely talking to those who've been through it is a peak point of this process for sure.
Yeah, and them having the understanding that there's people out there that have been through it too. I like the way you said that, guiding them. It's like,
oh, we are.
I equate it to being in like a dark tunnel, and they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, but that's what we're for.
Right.
We're there,
that's good.
There to let them know that there is a light, and that light is actually emanating from them themselves. They're the ones that are going to light and illuminate their own path.
That's the key right there. They have to understand that they are the light. They're just, instead of running at 100 watts, they're only running at 15 because of their experience. And the experience is that tunnel, and, as a lot of people say, and the older folks say and everything, when you get to the end of your rope, there's only one way to do. That's either let go and make yourself better, or just keep hanging on there and stay in the misery. If you get in at the end of a hole, there's only one way to go at the bottom of the hole, and that's back up. And once you understand the process, what you're going through with good people and understanding that you're not alone, then you can really do some amazing things in your healing process by helping others. And I keep saying helping others because I have found out, and I think Papa will agree, the best healing that we can do is taking that pain and that loss and everything and putting it into others, helping others so they can get better. Because you'll always shed a tear. Yeah, I helped that person, but you never ask for a reward. You give freely.
Exactly. And that's how we're going to help heal the planet and humanity. Like, on a mass level, this planet, humanity in general, has been traumatized. And it's been done so on purpose, so that way everybody's living in fear and they're scared and they look to certain people to be their saviors. And we can get through this. Like, a lot of people think we can't. That's not the case. Yeah, we can totally get through this. We have to find the courage to do so within ourselves. And you will, once you start to heal from this trauma that you've been through, whatever it is, once you start to deal with your own inner demons, once you overcome that stuff, once you understand yourself, once you love yourself, that's
a key.
The key, exactly. You have to forgive yourself. And look, as I said earlier, I still have survivor's guilt so to a degree when it comes to 9/11 and when it comes to being in the military in general. Any vet will tell you that they understand that.
Yeah.
Still have guilt about not being able to save Marseille. That'll never go away. But I'm learning every day, and it's a learning experience, and every day until the day I die will be a learning experience. But I'm still learning every day to forgive myself. Because I need to. That's the only way I'm going to survive. It's the only way that William can survive if he learns to forgive himself for what he feels like. If he feels that he made a mistake. It's part of the healing process. I'm going to pause us, William, because I can see the break is sneaking up at about 30 seconds here. When we get back, we will get right back into this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an extremely important topic. Take it very seriously. Take the time to learn. If you have someone in your family who's going through trauma, try to give them a little bit of leeway and a little bit more understanding. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back in 3 short minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. Go check out all my archives. You can download them, PopeyeRadio.com. PopeyeRadio.com. Very easy to remember. Also, go to the archive section over here on Truth Frequency Radio, truthfrequencyradio.com. Give them a little bit of love. Subscription is not very expensive, ladies and gentlemen, and not only will you be able to get access to all of my shows here on TFR, but all of the other hosts. So then you can get everybody else's shows, and then whatever's not here, if you want to go over PopeyeRadio.com, and everything I've ever done, audio-wise, is over there. So go check it out. Anyway, welcome back. Hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition. Hanging out with my good friend and Shaman William White Crow. William, we've been talking PTS. We've been talking post-traumatic stress and loss and how to deal with it. And we're going to get into spiritual warriors and what that means and how to, how to emanate that energy, how to live that in reality and not just in your, like some people would say, it's in your imagination or in your head or something like that. No, I want people to understand how you can actually emanate that. But before we do that, because people can't emanate that positive light, that energy, they can't be light warriors like we were talking about one night. And you can't be a light warrior until you fix yourself, right? And part of that fixing is the healing process that people have to go through. Now, we've been talking about trauma. We've been talking about PTS. I want to throw some ideas maybe out there for people so they can learn perhaps how to heal themselves, because that's the only way it's going to work. No one's going to heal you. You have to heal yourself. Having someone to talk to is great, but
That's right.
we are the ones that are going to heal ourselves. So I'll give my, I'll give my take on it afterwards, but I want to give you the floor for however long, and go ahead and give out whatever ideas, whatever ways have helped you, and then I'll chime in when you're done. Go ahead.
Yeah, healing can take many different forms. You have to find out what the key is that can help you heal. Now, as we said, it usually always turns around us helping other people helps us heal. I've seen a lot of parents that have lost their children, and they start helping all the little kids around the neighborhood, or they're going to take more interest in the grandkids or something. This is their healing process. And the healing process takes different time for different people. None of us are the same. And we go through so much. Now, there's different avenues, and Popeye and I were talking during the break there for a second. And you have to find out what the avenue is for you. And like we were talking to other people's good. But the first thing we have to understand is ourselves. Once we go through this traumatic experience, we have to have that time alone to stop and look and say, what do I want now? What do I need now? What is it that's going to help me pull out of this? Because we have to, as my grandparents used to say, son, sometimes you got to pull your head out of your ass and get on with life, and that's the way it is. We may have went through such a traumatic thing, but if we let it just steamroll us into depression, it's not going to do us or any loved ones or anybody around us any good. Then pretty soon we're the ones sitting there on the psychiatrist's couch taking 9 different types of medication. And that's what happens if you fall into the system. The key is stay out of the system. Learn about yourself and what can help. Sometimes going for a walk next to a river. I always tell people, pull your boots off, go to a water source that's natural, and stick your feet in it and start just thinking about life. And think about the good things that have happened. With my son, I think about the one I lost. I think about all the good times that I had laying there with him on the bed in my right arm laying there, and I put a net above the bed, put all the stuffed toys in there. And some of the first words were bear, and I chuckle about that. And sometimes it'll bring a tear, but it's a happy tear because I remember that. And it starts the healing process. Go swimming. What is it that you like to do? And start putting yourself into that. You have to let go of, like Popeye said earlier, the anger and the fear and things of this nature that I talk about, because it is a fear. What happens if I lose another one? Or what happens if I put myself in this situation where this is going to happen again, whether it be, man, woman, or what, child or anything. We have to be strong for ourselves. And I understand that my first part of the healing process was actually understanding that I didn't do it. It wasn't something that I did, and it was an accident, and I had to accept that. And the key is the healing process. That's the first thing that we have to do is look over that little horizon and start seeing some good things in our lives and the good people around us. And this is us talking only to us. This isn't going talking to anybody else. And look at those people around us. Some of them won't understand, and they never will. That's just the way life is. But you start pulling yourself up, and you start hiking, you start biking, you go out, you start looking at the people in the world and seeing, even on the news media and stuff. And I know I don't even like to watch the news, but there's many others out there that have gone through. When I lost one, look at the people at 9/11 who lost, or these plane crashes who lost half of their families and other accidents and everything. And you feel for them and you understand, man, I know what they went through. So that's part of the healing process, actually, is seeing the aspects and other people going through this and understanding you're not alone, but also understanding that you, my friends, are in control of your life. And don't listen to the negativity, any negativity of anybody else that has been through it. I had a psychologist tell me 6 months after, my wife's sitting over here, 6 months after we had lost our son, oh, you should be over about that now. Well, she listened to the scanner. We always keep scanners and radios going on. And the police were already on their way to the place where the psychologist was, because I had him up against the wall. He triggered me. What do you mean I should be over this? But I got over that. I let him down. and everything, and said, you know what, I'm stronger than this. I'm not going to let this destroy me, because this is not what the individual would want me to do. Or if it was a rape, I've helped ladies that, and rape victims and everything, and talking to me, and I tell them it's not your fault here. This is a crazed individual. You're better than this. Don't let him and the act that this individual did to you win. You can't afford it. You're stronger than that. You're better than that. It did happen. Now you can go teach the cues and, the things that other women don't think about that can bring something on like this. And also, some of these people became very active in what they were doing on women's rights and things like that. I've seen entire families die in plane crashes. And even though I lost one on Christmas Day, I watched a plane crash. And you know how these people got better over the next 6 or 7 months, and they got very good. They went out and did more family outings with other people and everything that they could. And they always talked and remembered the good things. So many different things out there that are traumatic. You have to really stop and see what's going to work for you. Now, what do you love to do? That's the first thing I would say. Start getting involved doing that. And start understanding that the pain you have is going to diminish over time. It's never going to leave you. But whatever happened to you is going to diminish over time, but it's going to make you stronger. There's several other avenues of approach here, but Popeye, I think, you take over here and tell them your ways too. I've got a few more, but this is something that people know from two different age sets, two different eras of individuals.
Well, forgiving yourself is the biggest thing. Understanding, trying to look back on the things you've done, and I said this before, trying to look back on the things that you've done and understand that if you made mistakes or made, no matter how big they were, and it doesn't mean you don't take personal responsibility for them, because that's a key part of it too, but understand that if you look back on it, you go, what an idiot I was. You got to forgive yourself because, hey, you were going through some traumatic stuff at the time, and now you have a better understanding and a different outlook on it. So you have to try to have that perspective. Whatever the traumatic event itself is, again, a lot of times you're going to have guilt. Like I still, I say to myself, I should have had an EpiPen in the house. And you would think that because she had asthma and allergies, we would have one. But I thought she had gotten one. I thought she was going to take care of getting one. And because you can't do everything yourself, I was busy taking care of getting my house, because I did all the paperwork. I did everything to get the house. So I thought that she was taking care of that. And she didn't do it because she was worried about spending, I think it was $30 or $40 for it or whatever. And she didn't tell me this, but I knew just from comments that she had made, because she didn't want to be a financial burden. And I thought that she had gotten the EpiPen. And so now, having all this knowledge afterwards, it eats at me every day. That why didn't you go get one? Why didn't you take the personal responsibility? That morning, she told me she wasn't feeling good. And she told me that she had woken up feeling short of breath, and I asked her if she wanted to go to the emergency room, and she said no, she was fine. And to understand, my wife, you could not control her. She was, like a F5 tornado. You could not really control her. You might be able to try to, steer her a little bit, but controlling the winds, was not going to happen. So I couldn't make her do anything she didn't want to do. And I said to her, "Are you sure you don't want to go?" I asked her a couple of times. She didn't want to go. And she was more concerned because my leg was bothering me that day and I couldn't walk. So all these things happened. My leg was jacked up, right? And she was focusing on me. And then later that night, she has an asthma attack. And then, ends up in a coma and dies. So how did I reconcile that? Well, I still deal with it every day, but I have to, and even just talking about it helps, because, as you're talking about it out loud, you think, and not just with people like I'm talking to you right now, or the listeners hear me, right? I mean, talking with yourself. You said this before, you called it self-talk.
Yeah.
One of the best things you could do is talk to yourself. people are going to go, what? Isn't that a sign of being crazy? No.
Not at all.
Sit down and counsel I'm my own best counselor. All the advice that I give you, ladies and gentlemen, I give myself too. I have conversations with myself when I drive around and doing errands. I'll be in the car talking to myself, and I mull over all this stuff, all of it. And sometimes if you were sitting next to me, it would be like, you'd be like, wow, really? Because I'll say something and then I'll analyze what I said and tear it apart and be like, oh, stop it, or whatever, or give myself like, chill myself out. And there's nothing wrong with that. Honestly, there's not. That's what we have to do. That's like the ultimate level of personal responsibility, is actually analyzing your own thoughts. It doesn't mean you should walk around publicly in Walmart doing it, just talking to yourself and, saying your thoughts out loud and then debating them to yourself out loud. Maybe that might be taken the wrong way. So, all kidding aside, sitting in your car when you're by yourself or whatever and going over this with yourself, I think self-talk is one of the greatest ways of self-therapy. Because, look, you can get therapy, you can go to a therapist, but at the end of the day, most of these therapists, unless they're natural, holistic, or they really know what they're doing, which there are those that do. I don't want to bash every one of them, but a lot of them are going to want to, send you to a shrink so you can get drugs and you can get put on all sorts of prescriptions and Xanax and all that stuff does is disconnect you from your emotions. And we're taught in modern day society now to not embrace your emotions. And that's part of the problem with society. That's part of why society is sick, because it's not dealing with any emotions at all, whether they be positive or negative. And we need to. We need to deal with the emotions. Don't mask it.
That's right.
Like one of my doctors at the VA, when they found out that Marseille died, they were like, well, do you need anything? And I was like, no. And I said to the doctor, I said, I don't want anything, because I want to feel every aspect of it. I want to feel pain. I want to feel the loss. I want to feel the sadness. And she looked at me like I had 6 heads. And I said, if I don't feel that, then I'm not dealing with her death. I'm hiding from it. I'm running from it. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take it head on. The only way I know how to do things is take them head on, grab the bull by the horns. That's how you have to deal with it. I mean, when people talk to me, I'm very direct about how I talk about her death. And people are usually very surprised about it. And a lot of times I can talk about it without crying, very straight-faced. And I think people are very taken aback by it. And the reason being is because I talk about it so matter-of-factly. Now, if I get into detail about it and I start to get into the event, just like you, yes, I will. I'll get a little broken up. But because I've talked about it so honestly over the course of time, it has helped me too. It has helped me, and me, I have to reinforce that too. Like when she first died, I kept thinking she was going to walk through the bedroom door. Like I kept looking. I would be sitting in my bed and I would look up and expect her to walk through the door. And I knew I had to get through that. Okay, I knew I had to. Part of the healing process was to get through that. So I would purposely, when I would talk to people, I would say when Marseille died or when she passed away, but usually I would say when she died. And a lot of people actually asked me, like, you could tell the conversation came up, a few people I know, how come I say dying or died over passed away or passed or crossed over. And I say, because I say it very matter-of-factly because it's what happened. She died. That's right. She is no longer here, and I need to make my brain accept that. So it wasn't me trying to get them to accept it. It was me getting myself to accept it. It's part of that self-therapy thing. It's part of that self-healing. No therapist is going to be able to help you do that. Maybe talking to you, maybe listening to them like you're listening to me, and practicing or doing it in not just in theory, but in practice, trying to do it yourself in your own life, maybe. But the therapist themselves isn't going to fix you. I'm not going to fix you. William is not going to fix you. What's going to fix you? You. Exactly. That's the only key.
Also here, Popeye, there's a phrase, should've, could've, would've. That can take you out.
Dude, you just get chills, because that's what Marseille, I'm not kidding, that's what Marseille used to say. She used to say, her saying was, woulda, coulda, shoulda. I'm not going to live my life that way. That's exactly what she used to say. So you just gave me chills, brother.
And she's right. And we have to look at that in the healing process. Oh, I should have done this. I could have done this, or if I would have known, I would have done this. We have to let that go, because then you're living a life of shoulda, coulda, woulda. You're not being proactive from that point on. And another thing, that we really, really have to look at it there is we have to have the ability to look at ourselves and be realistic with ourselves. Tragedy happens. Many bad things happen to many people all over the planet, but they get over it. Look at the people of Katrina. Look at all the people out there that's went through all the travesties and everything. Every single one of them out there that has went through something horrific or very tragic in their life and are still here now are very strong individuals, and they know how to handle situations, and they know how to do the self-talk. They can stop for a minute, analyze the situation, and talk to yourself. I look at it this way, to be honest with you, Popeye. If you're not talking to yourself on a regular basis, you're crazy.
Really? Good point. I mean, look, I catch myself making mistakes all the time. I'm human. I make mistakes, and I don't. I'm not perfect. I don't have 100% score of, fixing every one of them. But I catch them, and I talk to myself. I call myself out. I'm my own worst enemy. I've actually had to reel that in. And by the way, that's part of healing too. Which
that's right.
You end up critiquing the living crap out of yourself. And that's why when people say, wow, you have thick skin, dude, how come you can take ball busting? Because none of you could ever do anything compared to what I can do to myself, because none of you know anything anywhere near close to what I know about myself. So none of you could ever attack me on that level. So that's why trolls, all that retarded stuff doesn't bother me. Ball busting doesn't bother me. I'm my own you just I'm on a different I'm on a different level with that. It doesn't bother me. And I've actually had to learn to reel my own self in. Would you know what I'm talking about? You end up ripping yourself and being too hard on yourself. And that's part of this trauma and healing too. You start to critique everything you do, and you start to pick yourself apart, and you call yourself stupid and you're angry. No. Stop. You got to stop that.
Yeah.
You got to stop
100%.
Negative vibes. The negative vibes towards yourself will destroy you. It'll literally destroy your DNA structure physically. It'll destroy you spiritually. It will kill you, and you will be doing it to yourself. William, thoughts?
No, I agree with you 100% right there, because there was times when I looked at myself in the mirror, when I was a lot younger, and I get mad, and and all of a sudden it's, well, I can do, you actually get pissed at yourself, and for talking to yourself in a negative way and everything. It does happen. I don't care who you are. It's going to happen to you. It's what you do after that point. Me, if I find it happening too much, I'll go out in the garden. I'll start walking through the woods, and all of a sudden that can-do attitude starts coming up. And see, that's another big thing about healing right here is it isn't quit saying I can't. It's I can. You just have to find the little keys and little things that are going to help you do that. And whatever they may be, only you know. But the fact is, start getting a can-do attitude, and shoulda, coulda, woulda needs to go out the window. And you will be surprised at how quick you can heal, and how the love and the understanding and your personal security and your mind and your heart, because a lot of times when things happen, we don't have the confidence in ourselves. And that's one thing I think some of us in the military, especially if you're in deep stuff, as we say, deep shit, we had confidence. I mean, we may have been scared in combat during the time, but we didn't think. We reacted because we were trained so well at what we did, because muscle memory, and you just do what you got to do. Well, you can train yourself to do the same thing in very stressful and bad situations, traumatic situations too. But shoulda, coulda, woulda needs to go out the window. I can. And Popeye, what we were just talking about right there, when people start getting that I can attitude, all that other stuff falls away.
I can't is like one of my most hated expressions. I can't.
We don't do it
to hear. I can't.
We don't do it here.
Hate it.
No, not in my family and everything, my grandkids and everything. Everybody knows if you start, oh, I can't, don't let Grandpa hear that. Because what do you mean you can't? Have you tried? Have you tried 100 times? Or have you just tried 1 or 2 times or 3 times and I can't? And you haven't thought of other ways maybe you can accomplish whatever it is you're trying to do. I can't is a personal destroyer. It's the one thing that will attack you. And, you were talking about judging. I have to laugh here because I was talking to a minister one time, which I became myself at one time. And I turned around and was talking to him. And, oh, Jesus is going to judge you. And I said, you know who Jesus is going to let judge you? You. You're your worst enemy when it comes to judgment. Sometimes we've got to pull our heads up and everything, look things a different way. But when it comes to judgment, we're the worst person on ourselves. We'll dog ourselves more than anybody else will. But wake up and have that I can. One day, no matter what traumatic situation you go through, you're going to have to wake up and you're going to say, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm tired of being depressed. I'm tired of not having a life and feeling just like I'm worthless. And then you have to look in that mirror of life. And I use a regular mirror when I was younger. And I look in there, I can do this. And I'm going to do this. You have to kind of get angry at yourself. And it gives you that motivation to get up and do what you need to do.
If you don't do it, nobody else is going to do it for you.
Ain't happening.
Seriously. You have to sit and you have to be the one that you've been looking for. I say this all the time, that the solutions to our problems are an inside job. Not only is that true countrywide, okay?
Yeah.
Not only is it true worldwide, not only is it true in the political arena, not only is it true in everyday life, but it's true in your own self, your soul. Okay? You have to heal yourself because no one is going to do that for you. Okay? I wish that I had the magical ability, the superhuman ability to transfer energy from me, okay, through the microphone and heal you. And in a sense, we kind of do that. What William and I are kind of doing tonight. But
that's right.
We're just empowering you. That's all we're doing. We're letting you know of your own true potential. The energy, the healing actually doesn't come from either one of us. We're, like William said, we're the guides in the dark tunnel, right? And him and I are just trying to show you that, look, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Don't panic. You're not lost in a sea of darkness. And you go, oh, okay, that's awesome. And then we go, but wait, there's more. The best part about this whole thing is that light is you. And you go, what?
That's right.
How are you talking about? You are going to be the one that saves you on a personal level, on a political level, on a countrywide level, on a worldwide level, humanity-wide. Okay? It all starts from within. That's what that whole... The law of correspondence, as above, so below. That's what that's about. The Masons borrowed that. They didn't come up with that. That's the law of correspondence. As above, so below. In the micro, in the macro. Understand? In yourself, out in the universe. You want to heal the place. You want to heal the planet. You want to heal everybody else. You have to heal yourself. And I don't mean... First. Yeah, I don't mean Neosporin on a cut. I mean your soul. Whatever damage is going on in there. And it doesn't matter what it is. You face it, you take it on, and you heal from it. And
one thing.
Then you can...
I'm sorry.
Fight. No, go on.
Oh, one thing, it just came to me, and I'll lose it.
No, we got about 30 seconds.
We're talking to individuals out here about how they can heal, but I want to talk to you people that are out there around those individuals trying to heal. One of my favorite ways of helping heal people is ask them questions.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Final segment of tonight's live edition, DTRH. Wow, that went by rather fast. Faster than I expected. I mean, I knew doing a show with William would go by fast, but damn, I blinked and it's over already. Don't worry, he'll be back on for future shows. But since we only have about 25 minutes left, I want to get right back into it because it's not going to be enough time anyway. And this, again, just epic broadcast. So, William, when we went to break, like I said, we only had about 30 seconds, and you were touching on something, and I want you to get back into it. You wanted to reach out to the people around the people suffering from post-traumatic stress and suffering with it. You wanted to reach out and speak to them directly. So go ahead, the floor is yours, and then we can get into being a spiritual warrior and what that means and all that. But go ahead.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of this, and you brought this up to begin with and begin part of the show and everything, and other shows that you've done. And I really liked it when I heard it because it's total truth. You're going to have the people that when you're going through things, man up, or you got to woman up, or whatever you want to call it, cowboy up, anything, and just deal with it. That's just the way it is. Well, but that isn't the way it is, especially in the beginning phases of what's going on. You can't be that type of person when you're trying to help somebody. The first thing that you need to do is stop and just listen to the words they say, because sometimes them just being able to talk without any type of judgment whatsoever, one iota, you're just listening to them. And then when they have a pause, you wait, you'll know when to say something. You ask them a question. Well, how does this make you feel? We have to step back as an observer, and I've talked about this in many shows before. To a point, you still have to have you got to temper your logic with emotion, and sometimes it's the other way around. But the fact of the matter, if you see somebody going through things, you can make a difference in the speed of their recovery simply by just lending that ear there for a moment and not having any judgment. Don't be the dumbass that's just going to sit there and say exactly that. You get over this. That's just the way it is. Over time, everything will be okay. Well, sure, over time, everything will be okay. But something like that doesn't do any good. That creates animosities. And when I was going through my real hard times, and somebody said that to me, they might be on the wrong end of my personality, and that's not a good place to be, especially back then, and that could be the same way with somebody else. All of a sudden, you could break a trust bond that people don't even think about. Just simple words. When people are in the deep down darkness of their depression, the key is to throw them the rope. This is an analogy here, so bear with me. You need to throw them the rope one strand at a time. And you need to ask questions that is going to make them think and realize that things aren't as bad as they are. And here, let me help you. Do this, or you know what, I can take you on over there if you want to go to the park, or something like this. You don't have to be the psychologist sitting there, here, this is what your problem is, and then, because the individual has to figure that out themselves. And by figuring that out themselves, it gives them a good granite base to stand on instead of standing on the bank of a river full of sand. When you have a storm, it comes up, it's going to wash everything away around their feet. And I know these are analogies, but you understand what I'm saying. If you help a person to give them a good foundation to work with and let them know that you'll just be there as a phone call away, and they can just talk all they want. No matter if they're crying like Popeye with you in the grill in the restaurant, sometimes that is the most satisfying thing to you as well, because these people are pouring their spirit and their heart out to you, and you're not judging them at all. You're, okay, I understand this. Well, what about this? How do you feel about this? Would you like to go to a park? Do something kind, because that's the quickest healing things that happen to anybody out there. What do you think about that, Popeye?
No, I think you're correct. First of all, understanding is key. That's one of the number one things is understanding. Understanding what the person is going through. I've said this a bazillion times. Just instead of judging, instead of just attacking, try to put yourself in that person's shoes and try to think. If you say you know them so well, try to think why they would react like that. Maybe what they've gone through. Try to understand them as an individual, as a human, a little better before you just unload judgment on them, because those in glass houses should not be throwing stones. Nobody's perfect. Yeah. So everybody needs to quit judging each other. That's one of the things. And there's before I forget this, because I know how my brain is right now. One of the chatters in the chat room brought something up, and I want to answer this question. Definitely. They asked if PTS ever goes away, and the answer simply is No. It is
That's right.
a traumatic scar in your brain. Your brain was physically altered by it. Whether you can see it or not, whether they do an MRI, it's not like there's a huge scar going across it, but physically there were brain cells that were traumatized and killed and things regenerated. You have a level of physical trauma to your body and your brain and emotional trauma. And the emotional scar is the one that doesn't heal. Okay? Well, it heals, but from time to time it can be torn open a little bit and exposed a little bit.
Sure.
And that happens. But it's how you deal with it. The symptoms, the hardcore symptoms of PTS, for the most part, can be managed. But it's a case-by-case basis. There is no umbrella answer. So I can't say to you, of course, everybody with PTS, they never heal. There are some people that completely heal and they never have anything. Doesn't matter. Things don't trigger them again. Very maybe mild. And then on the opposite end of that, there are people that no matter how well adjusted they become, no matter how healed they become, there are triggers that no matter what could set off and just give them an emotional event for 15, 20 minutes. And when I say that, I mean it just could make them cry or whatnot or have certain feelings or whatever. And that's going to happen too. It all depends. It's like a mixture of things. You have to take into account the type of trauma, what happened, all that. You can't just say it's not just one simple thing. It's not. It's not just like in a year or two they'll be fine, or in 5 years after talking about it they'll be fine. If you're suffering from it and you're asking that, I'm sure you probably want to know, does it get better? Yes. But you are the one responsible for that. There's nobody that's going to make it better. You have to be the one to make it better. And it's hard. Look, I have days where I cry. Okay, a couple days ago, I had a bad emotional day, and I was crying my eyes out for a while. Okay? And I have those days. I mean, I have emotional days. I missed her. I was sitting thinking about Marcy. I was looking at her picture. I have up on the wall that Melissa made me. And I started crying. And I sat in my office for about a half hour, and I was just very sad because I missed her, and I felt that guilt came back and everything. And I had to be the one to rein that in and get it under control and put myself back in check. It's like you said, you balance out emotion with logic and logic with emotion. It's this dance that you have to do, and it's a very fine line that you're doing this dance on. You know what I mean? And that's what you have to do. That's part of keeping yourself in check. And you're going to have those emotional days. I mean, you're going to have days where you're sad. You're going to have really shitty days. There's no other way to put it. You're going to have a day like that. Understand that that's a part of this. It's okay. That's the most important part, is to understand that it's okay that you have a bad day. It's okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Forgive yourself. If you do, you snap, you get mad or whatever, just forgive yourself. I mean, get over it. Don't be such an ass about things. It doesn't give you a free pass to run around and be an a-hole. But at the same time, don't beat yourself up over it. I know what that, I know how that is. You get mad at yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. And another thing here, this is when you were talking about crying, and I had my moment there at the beginning of the show because, that's something that we have to show. But that's okay. That is really part of the process. And I'm going to tell you, once you have that release and everything, and I'll tell you right now, just during the time we did the show, and I had my hard moment there talking about my son, losing him in my arms, here towards the end of the show, I that emotion that I experienced relieved me of a lot of stress. Not only of that, but other things in life. So you have to understand that crying or doing things like that or going through, a tear episode and everything is positive for you. It isn't something that's bad, and you don't have to apologize to anybody out there over it. If you have a moment, they don't understand it, tough. You can explain it to them later. Just let them know, give me a few moments here and everything. It isn't a bad thing. It is literally good all the way around. It's an emotional release, and it helps you keep you on the track. because you'll suck it up again. Okay. Like Papa said a couple of days ago, he went through it. I go through that off and on, over the year here and there, but the fact of the matter is things do get a little bit better, and they do get better. You can live life and everything, and it's not as heavy hitting you, but at times it will. And it's okay when it does.
And there's something else. Well, there's something else I want to stress too. Sure. We have about 15 minutes, and I do want to get into the spiritual warrior thing because it's a big part of this. But there's something else I want to stress to you all. If you've gone through something traumatic and you feel that you'll never be happy again in your lives, and this is a big thing for me to say, but you will. You will be happy again one day. You will reach a level of happiness again. And I know that may not seem possible right now, but you will. It won't be the exact same thing, especially if you lost somebody. No matter what, the traumatic experience will have altered you, so it won't be the exact same thing. But there's nothing wrong with that because you are a new individual. You have changed as a human. You've evolved into something different spiritually as well. And there's nothing wrong with that, and you will be happy again. Okay, even if it takes time, but you have to be open to it, and you have to allow yourself to be happy again. Okay, you can't beat yourself down and say, I'll never be happy again. I'm going to be miserable for the rest of my life. Blah 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 blah. But whatever the case, whatever it's about, you will be happy again. I promise you. It may not seem like it. I had people say this to me when Marisay first died, and I was like, and I told them, I was like, you need to get away from me. Because I don't want to hear that retarded garbage come out of your mouth right now, and I don't want to put my fist through the back of your head because I know that you're just trying to be a good person. So I didn't want to be a jerk to them, we'll say. But at the same time, I completely understand now and it might not have, they were just trying to say something nice. But I don't think they realized the actual profoundness of the statement, even if they didn't. If they meant it, then good. But if they didn't mean it and it was just something nice, it was more profound than they know. And you will be happy again. I'll put it that way. It's okay to feel happiness. You'll feel guilt about it. I did. Sometimes I still do once in a while, but really not as much. It's okay to be happy. And I can't stress that enough. You need to. Your body needs that. You can't possibly live in constant sadness and anger and angst. Your body will not put up with that, and eventually it will break down, and so will your spirit. And the person, if you've lost somebody, and even if you didn't, if it's just a traumatic experience, if you lost someone, the person you lost wouldn't want that. And if it's just if it's something other than you losing somebody, say a car accident, rape, whatever, the people that are still around you and love you wouldn't want you to do that to yourself. Because either way, it's detrimental to your health, and the people that love you wouldn't want that. I don't want that. William doesn't want that, okay? So it's all about healing yourself. Anyway, we have about 12 minutes left, and I need to touch on this because this is a huge part of this. Being a spiritual warrior, William, with everything that we've talked about tonight, this is like everyday real life. And then on top of it, we have friends, many of us, that go through the same things you and I do, and many of the listeners do. And on top of it, they also have to deal with being awake and seeing what's going on and fighting this. Yeah. And a lot of this puts their spirits in this dark place, and people lose perspective and they lose sight. And a lot of times, just like we were talking about with PTS, being in that dark tunnel, well, our own fellow guides sometimes lose their way. And that's nothing. There's nothing wrong with it. This is a hard thing we do, and part of that, a part of rejuvenating them, I think, is getting into what it is to be a spiritual warrior. So, like I said, we have about 10.5 minutes. Go ahead and let's get into. I want your thoughts on being a spiritual warrior and doing what we do, even if you have to experience something like what you and I go through with post-traumatic stress, which many people do.
Well, I don't think, I'm going to be honest with you, Popeye, and everybody else out there, you're not going to be a spirit warrior unless you go through the ups and downs and the traumas and the good times and the uncertainties of life. We are not the PhD sitting behind a desk, who is educated in a classroom who never experienced the stuff that they're teaching. The best teacher is somebody that's already experienced it. And a spirit warrior, I love just the question, what is a spirit warrior? What do they do? We are not the fluffy little, everything will be okay because the fairies or the aliens or whoever are going to save us tomorrow. No. Bam. We get hit with life right in the face. Every single one of us. We have to go through the ups and downs. We just learn from them and experience them at deeper levels. And we understand how to take these things that happen to us and manipulate them, if you will, and turn them into positive things in our life. Now, spirit warriors are going to be just like me and Popeye, and other people. There's so many walks of life, and it doesn't matter race, color, or anything. We sometimes will cuss, and we will get mad, we will this and that, because we see the transitions and the things going on in life. And sure, it's still going to bother us, but then what do we do with them? Popeye's turned it into something very positive. We use the radio to help other people see what's going on and understand, so they don't run into that proverbial brick wall of life, And being a spirit warrior doesn't mean that you get to just sit and bathe in the light of God all the time. No, you're going to have to be right out there in the middle of the war of life, as I like to call it. However, news media, the war on terror, the war on this. Well, you know what? There's a battle in life going on, and you can win it. And if you went through these hard times, and you're a spiritual warrior, especially if you're a spiritual individual looking for truth and honesty and honor and respect. And see, that's a lot of stuff like that is gone out there now. But a true spiritual warrior, it doesn't matter if you're a woman or man or anything, that's what you're seeking. And you help others, and you understand these ups and downs and the sadnesses and the tribulations that people go through and all this other stuff. But you stay strong because you know the truth inside. You know that you are the one that makes the changes. It's you who is going to react to a given situation. And as let's say you get stopped by a cop. You can approach a cop one or two ways. Hi, officer, how you doing? Or what the hell did you stop me for? What do you want? What reaction are you going to get? So we learn real quick to stop, think, observe what's going on, and not just react, but you try to see the appropriate way to react and deal with things. A spirit warrior will stand their ground, guaranteed, to open the eyes of individuals against those. I'm going to say something for a minute here, and it's not against any religious people or anything, but I see these preachers up on this TV raking in, $3-4 million a weekend on their Sunday programs, and it's going to help, spread the word, but they need a new jet, they need a new multi-million-dollar home. Come on, give me a break. Those people are not spiritual warriors. They're con artists, as far as I'm concerned, and I think a lot of you know those people out there. But a spiritual warrior is also going to be very down to earth. They're going to tell you what's going on. We may have high energy, where I'd like to punch them in the nose, but we put ourselves in check. We understand what's going on. We see why other people are doing the negative things they are doing to control people. Government's trying to control us, or we're trying to control one another, or whatever. We let that stuff go. You have to, because that's not part of being a spiritual warrior. You can see it happening, but you don't get involved in the drama. And that's a big essential part. Understanding that this physical form is our Volkswagen of life. It's just a car. And the true us is what's operating this system right here. Picture yourself being the little alien guy in the head of the guy in like Men in Black, 1 or 2. That's kind of how it is, and that's kind of putting it in a little comical way, but in reality, we're what's making this body work. We have to live in this realm. Also understand that at a deeper level. And everything else starts to make sense. This facade we call life can be exactly what we want it to be. But being a spiritual warrior means that we have to not only stand up for ourselves, but for those around us, the humanity, because our love for our humanity and our looking for a positive future and a way to find that positive future for not only ourselves, but mankind and everyone around us, it's essential in our life. We can't put it down. We can't stop. We have to keep going. And those of us that get older, like where I am, I'm seeing a whole new a generation of people coming up that are spiritual warriors at younger ages. So I have a lot of hope for the future. It isn't going to be the way that these so-called, let's say the word elite or whatever, on other shows that we do. I don't even worry about the elite. I don't. I know it's going to happen. I already know that. We all know what's going to happen. But it doesn't matter. We're still going to live our existence and protect and watch over one another. And that's what a true spiritual warrior is. We live both sides. I walk a fine line being a shaman of the real world and then the other world. They're both just as real. It's just one is energy and one is physical. And the spiritual warrior knows that. So we can call other energies to us and have that help and work in our lives, and not only our lives, but other. We have a tremendous amount of compassion for even those people we don't know. And Papa, I've heard you say, I love you all out there. You haven't met 3/4 of the people in your audience. But I know where you're coming from, because that's what a spiritual warrior does. They send that energy out like we are on this radio show right now, and people are feeling it and they're loving it. And hopefully this is going to take people to a different level of understanding of themselves. And that's the key, helping everybody else take the next step up. So go for it, brother.
It's like I always say, we're not going to save the world. We're going to help the world save itself.
That's right.
Because that's how we're going to do this. And
one person at a time.
Well, exactly. And, it's happening. And a lot of people, they get kind of sidetracked with, you get lost in all these different battles and stuff. And it's important that we fight this stuff and we stand up for what's right and everything. But I just want everybody to know that we've already won.
Yeah.
You can tell by their reaction. If we didn't already win, they wouldn't need MRAPs. They wouldn't need to bully you. They'd be able to just walk all over you like a doormat. We've already won. You just haven't realized it yet. Once everybody realizes their own true potential, the game is over in about 3 seconds. And I mean that. Because then they become irrelevant. Because the police would be part of that, everyone too. And they would realize what's going on. The soldiers, they would realize what's going on. This would stop. Done. The powers that shouldn't be would become irrelevant. Their way of doing things would become irrelevant. Game over. Perspective shift. All it takes.
That's right.
It's that simple. So don't lose hope, brothers and sisters. They've already lost. That's why they're acting the way they are. They're afraid of you and your true potential. That's why they do what they do. They fear you. Don't fear them. They fear you.
No.
They're projecting their fear onto us. You should fear us. You know why? That's what bullies do. That's what bullies do. They fear you, your true potential. William, final thoughts. We got about 2 minutes. What do you think?
Well, I just I had a little thought on a movie, and I forget which one it was. It was an old movie about superheroes back in the day. And there was this guy named Cossack, and they turned around, Hoshak, excuse me, and he was one of the superheroes, and they put him in prison and everything. And here everybody's looking at him like they want to kill him because he put half of them in there. And he says, wait a minute. And this pertains to us as a society and civilians against those who want to oppress us. He looked at all these people, several thousand women in prison, looking at him, and he goes, you made a mistake. I'm not in here with you. You're in here with me. And that's the way it really is in the world out there, ladies and gentlemen. They're out there with us. We're not out there with them. We've already won, and they know it because everybody's waking up. But in your life, it's very important. No matter what type of trauma and hard things you've been through, you can pick yourself up, and life can be much better. It is hard at first, but you're going to come out a better and a stronger person all the way around. Have hope in yourself and believe in yourself.
Well said, brother. Well said. I agree 1,000% on all fronts. Thank you so much, William, for coming on and doing the show tonight, and thank you for bearing your soul the way you did. I really appreciate that.
Well, you people have to understand, it's reality. I didn't know that was going to happen, but it proved a point you were saying. Sometimes it's going to hit you when you least expect it, but you have to deal with it and get on with it, and things get better as time goes on. And I think it was a great thing for other people to understand that people like me and you, we're just like them. We're not any difference. And you don't know when it's going to hit you, but you can climb back up on your horse and you can ride on, and you can continue on, and let the bad things fall behind. Because the only thing that happens to me is positive things in this world right now. Because of that, I'm able to help more people, help them understand, just as you are, and it's just part of life now. It's going to happen. It comes back, but we can pull ourselves back together and jump back on the horse and get on with life.
Totally agreed. William, thank you so much, brother. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, he will be back very shortly with me, I promise. We are out of time. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, as I constantly tell you, the solutions to our problems are most definitely an inside job. And go out and be the superheroes I know you all are. I love you all, and I believe in you all, and so does William. We'll go out and let's help save the world. We're out of here.